living? Is it living? I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Andor. Welcome to the Andor After Show here on JLJ Media, the number one show on my network. I mean, you guys, again, the show is just like picked up steam, and we're getting thousands of downloads a week.
Not bad. Not
crazy.
Bad.
Just like the other after shows we did, Frank.
I know. When is the official name change with John Dunphy?
Title John Dunphy's Andor After Show. That's what it is, yes.
I'm definitely not worthy of that.
Yeah, Johnny, above the marquee, above the title. Guest starring James Lott Jr. and Frank Moran. Yeah, exactly. That's what's gonna have to happen. But seriously, guys, thank you out there, because we average around 40 or like 100, the video. Not a lot of that, so that's fine. You guys don't want to look at us apparently, but listening to us, it's loaded.
Yeah.
They don't want to see us, Frank. They just want to hear our voices. That's all they want to hear.
They want to see 2 out of the 3, and that's you and John. For me, I'll just go with that.
No, Frank's the secret weapon. That's what it is.
I'll just stay camera off.
I feel if we actually did the show with all our cameras off, that'd be something different. We're talking about episode 9 of Reaction. We're actually almost towards the last part of the season. It's going by fast. We had a lot of back and forth between 3 places. 4, I guess 4. But we're here to end our show. We're on every streaming service platform, YouTube, JLJ Media, of course. While you're here, hit the like button. Even if you don't like us, just hit it anyway. Just do it for John. Just do it for John. And a belated happy birthday to John Dunphy. Woo!
Thank you.
He is a new age. He is new age. And so, John, I asked everybody when they have their birthdays, is there one thing that you hope comes true for your next year?
For the next year? Geez, that's a tough one. One thing that I want to see come true for the next year. I'd like to see my New York Islanders win the Stanley Cup this season.
Oh.
That's what I want. Big hockey fan. So
is that possible, you think?
Well, so they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row. Had great seasons. Last season they sputtered a little bit. They did not make the playoffs, but this year hopes are high again. So they were close. 2 out of the last 3 years. So hopefully they can find some magic this year.
Okay. Well, I will hope that for you also. If he doesn't want world peace or the end of the pandemic, what he wants is Islanders to win the World Series. What do they win?
Stanley Cup.
Okay, so I don't know. What do they win? They get the playoffs? What's going on? What's going on here? Super Bowl. What are they doing? Okay, so we got to pray for that for you. Yes. Very good.
How was the spanking machine though, John?
It was not what I had hoped, actually. Yeah, I put it to the highest level. It still wasn't spanking hard enough. So.
And we'll move on from that. So thank you very much for everybody watching the show.
Oh, we're talking Andor. Oh, sorry.
Oh, right. Right. That's what we're doing.
We're still waiting for a Bantha teat pictures. That hasn't happened yet. Or blue milk squirting everywhere. We're waiting for that too, but that hasn't happened yet either. So we're still waiting. A PG-13 show tonight. I'll tell you guys.
Andor.
This is really the number one show, James. Just checking.
It is. It really is. Right. It's
okay, just checking.
It's crazy. So, probably gonna have number 5 now because of our inability to speak in a way that's professional. Or even be bigger number 1 because it's even crazier. One of the 2. So we're here. So thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you guys are here tonight. So that means I was just mapping it out. The finale will be the night before Thanksgiving. So that will be the finale. It's kind of funny. Okay.
The greatest gift of all.
Yes, for that holiday, yes. Besides my game heads. I'm so excited. I make every year my famous game heads. And also I'm doing a Friendsgiving. So if you're around on the 25th, the day after Black Friday, I'm doing a Friendsgiving Zoom, so sign up for that, and we'll talk and have fun, and you can watch me eat. I'm just kidding. We're gonna talk and have fun, and they're not gonna watch me. I don't eat live on TV. But it's a private Zoom. We're gonna work it out.
If somebody pays you extra, you will.
Oh no, you got that right, Frank. Yeah, I'm a total whore. You pay me out for anything, I will eat in front of you, whatever you want me to do. Yes.
Here's
I'll drink milk.
Big pot of spaghetti. Enjoy, James.
They're all my let's get to the show, shall we? Yes. There's only 2 people watching anyway, so that's fine. They'll start coming in. I'm sorry. Let me see if I got an announcement. I'm gonna make sure. I'm trying to see if I get these announcements. Announcement is out there. Hey, good. So announcement has happened. Okay, folks. It is November. It's episode 9. Nobody's listening. Overall thoughts of the episode. So we'll start with you, John Dunphy. Overall episode thoughts.
This was an interesting one. There was a lot going on in this episode. All of our different storylines are progressing. Whether you're, that ISB supervisor Deirdre, right? She's still doing her work. We saw Cyril Karn again. He keeps trying to get into the good graces of somebody.
Anybody?
Yeah, anyone. So I loved some of the prison scenes that we got too with Andor and sort of just what was going on in there. I loved this episode. I thought this was great. Again, we didn't really have any big, battles or, action sequences like we said last week, but it still felt like this episode was like action packed and really is continuing to move the story forward and progressing all the characters and everything. I really like this episode.
I was telling my brother was telling me, a friend of his, he hasn't watched any of these Star Wars stuff, but his friend watched and said, "Thank you, Disney Plus, for an adult Star Wars story." He's calling it. And that's, I think we said it on the show. It feels, I know, it'd be like that. Not adults. There goes Frank. He's gone. Broken Frank. Not that kind of adult, meaning adult as in a very mature story. Yes. I'm seriously mad. But no, I said on the show before, I felt kind of like this is very much a conversation heavy show. Lots of conversation. You gotta listen. You gotta actually listen. Frank, what do you think overall for this episode?
It was interesting. I feel like we're seeing several characters reaching those breaking points, and for Cassian, I was pleasantly surprised by his actions in this episode, given how he was in last episode. I felt like maybe he has a little momentary blip, but he's on the prowl. He's looking, he's angling, making moves, and that was cool to see, because I wasn't sure for the rest of the season if he was just going to be somebody that needed to be rescued, or if he was going to be making efforts to rescue himself. And so I feel like this episode kind of put those pieces into place.
Yeah, it's just true, because as we said before, so all the characters are so interesting that Cassian is almost falling into being one of the least interesting, like the one we don't like. If he's not on for moments at a time, I don't care. Like, where other shows, I was like, where is the lead character? Where's the lead character? This one, I'm like, it's okay, because the other characters fill up the screen enough that I'm like, I'm interested. But you're right, this episode, we got a lot of Cassian, actually. Yeah. So I kind of agree with that. So,
it is interesting even with Cassian, where it's even like with the Mon Mothma story, where it's she has no idea who Cassian Andor is at all. Nope. And yet his actions are going to have a big impact on her life. And so that's interesting too. Just even though he's a nobody to her, and her storyline still has a big impact.
That's right. You're right. That's very interesting. They haven't even crossed paths yet. Yeah. You're right. They don't know. Well, because they're all trying to. It's like everybody else knows who Cassian is, but yeah, it hasn't even uttered from her lips or anything yet. It's very interesting. I didn't know that. You just said that. That's interesting. They haven't. So it's funny. It's 2 major characters haven't even crossed, or not, there's nothing. You're right. I never know that. That's interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's so basically the majority of the episode was like 2 major places, maybe I guess 3. It was the prison. It was the ISB, that whole Coruscant, the ISB, anything surrounding that. I would say surrounding everything that's surrounding, like including the palace, all that. Also on Ferrix, we had the whole big little piece thing going on there too. A piece of the house with Homeboy and his mom. That actress is so good. Oh, she's so annoying. She's such that annoying mother who just like, oh my god, she's good. A lot of these actors are so good.
Yeah,
it's like she's so good. It's like she comes on and she's just running her mouth, and he's just sitting there with the blue milk and those. And those, what was that cereal for kids that had the round balls?
I mean, there's several. I mean,
Kix.
you've got your Kix.
Kix is one, right? Kix is one, right?
You've got Trix. You've got
right, Trix. Okay.
I think those
Cocoa
are
Puffs.
Cocoa Puffs.
Okay.
Your anything with the crunch berry in it.
I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure it out. I was like, what I couldn't think of the name. I was just going blank on the names of the cereal. So it just that whole I just love that whole season. And when he says she's just criticizing him. It's hilarious. And he's just like, I got a promotion. They have this long, again, cinematography on the show is, again, I love it. Her face starts to smile. I knew they see there was potentially. I'm like, wait a minute, you were just talking shit about him like a second ago. Like it's so they're dynamic. You just get it. They're dynamic. This is their dynamic. It's a effed up dynamic.
When he says, "Oh, I told you not to leave dinner out for me," one, all I could imagine is that dinner was just more cereal and blue milk.
Exactly. That's all he eats. That's all he eats. He's not gonna eat anything else. That's all he eats.
Yeah.
Cheese and crackers. God. Even have cheese and crackers would be great. And when he's like, you went through my special box or whatever.
My private box.
My private box. Well, you have a private box. And then it was like, and then she's like, I get two meals a day. Again, must be cereal. 2 meals a day. And it's called cleaning. I was like, called cleaning. Oh my god, I was laughing so hard. But he has a private box.
There you go.
Yeah.
We've all got our private boxes, James.
Yeah, he keeps his private things in there,
That's right.
I'm trying to think. I have a private drawer. I don't have a private box. I'm trying to think. Don't go through top drawer 5. That's like I say, folks. You come to my house. Yeah.
It's interesting though, because like with Cyril, I really have no idea what the show is in store for Cyril. Because every time you think like, oh, okay, I guess this is going to happen to him, he gets a roadblock, which happened last episode. I thought like, oh, could that be the last we see of him? And then here he is, just stalking outside the ISB.
Yeah,
wanting to see her, and it's like, oh, thanks for the promotion, for getting me that promotion. So it's like, oh well, why the door is closed. Also, he felt like, well, this is a little window that opened, so let me do this. And I can't quite tell with her she is definitely saying stay the heck away from me, but I can't tell like underneath she's like, but if you want to keep pushing it, go for it, because he will not stop pushing. He will find any avenue just to keep encroaching because he thinks that there's something there.
And he said, I want what you want, which he does. But it's like, is he also hitting on her too? Like, is that part of the plan? Like, because remember his mom said you changed your hair or whatever. I'm like, is there something going on there? Like, that whole scene was, I love it. It was a very intense scene. And she was like, it was like, but both of them together, I'm like, ooh, there's something. They're both steely. Right. They're like steely-eyed. She's evil. I wrote down to say, evil. She has no shame whatsoever. But he really wants. He said, after I saw you, I felt you being in your presence. I felt like, oh my goodness. I'm like,
he actually was saying like, oh, like being in your presence or like speaking to you made me find like a reason to live. Like that's how far he was going. Yeah. And then she, the conversation ended with her like threatening him with arrest.
So it's like outer rim, so far in the outer rim. Yeah. She walks up and then it's like, but she went to her office. So like Frank went to her office. She's kind of like I was like, was she kind of into it a little bit? Was like, because of the turn on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know with that.
He's still around. He's still around. That thing is, he's still around.
He's not going anywhere. And so I feel like I just need to see what she's going to do. Is she serious, or is she also kind of just into it? And he can keep pushing, but she'll say no. I don't know. I just don't know. That dynamic is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And John said a while back, remember, you were like, I feel they're going to link up somehow. It's going to be something in the future. I mean, That must be it. That must be. He's gonna keep moving his way up, maybe, and just he's gonna do something where she's gonna be like, okay, fine, or something. I don't know. It's like so weird. I don't know. It's like just,
Right.
He is a creep though, because it's just like people tell him no and stay away, and he won't. He just keeps pushing. Whatever he wants, he just keeps pushing, and that's just kind of creepy. Where it's just
I kept wondering if he was going to continue to be pushed away to the point where he would say, you know what, then screw the Empire. All this stuff I've been trying to do, I'm going to flip.
You said it before. You said it before.
Yeah, and I've been thinking that, but after this conversation between Cyril and Deidre, I don't see that as a possibility. I think that he is so deranged that he's just going to keep going with this.
He wants in.
Yeah.
He wants in. So I don't think he's going to stop either. He wants in, and by any means necessary. He's going to find his way in somehow. And Deidre is his lifeline. You think about it, I mean, that's the one person he kind of knows. When she was like, we had our conversation with, that was not a conversation. I brought questioning. That was, I was like, oh my God. She has some of the best lines this episode. She was just so cold. It was like, that wasn't a conversation. I just couldn't stop laughing. I was like, that is hilarious. That's not a conversation.
Yeah. I do like it in the sense where it's like even the Empire, for as fascistic as they can be, are still finding people like, yeah, you're kind of a weirdo. Stay away from us.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we're done.
So it's like, all right, I'm also down with that too. I mean, that humanizes the Empire in a way where it's like, yeah, they got to deal with weirdos too, and they're not going to just take everybody.
Yeah. But he's not. So he's not gone. But the other part, let's go tell these little smaller storylines, little tidbits. We met Dr. Gorst. He's a freak.
Gorst.
Yeah. I was like, so on General Hospital recently, I was using a General Hospital reference because Frank knows. They had a guy named was it Chopper or was it
Carver?
Carver. He had a set of knives. They will talk, and we made jokes about on the show about how he always has him and his knives, how he enjoyed his job. So Dr. Gorst, I was like, "You're enjoying your job, you freak!" And like he kept smiling when he was talking about what was happening. I'm like, "You're kind of a freak." Okay, got it. That's why you like your job so much. But I was kind of chuckling as this was going on. So I'm like, okay, Dr. Gorst. But I would say that whole opening, I mean, I don't even know, you guys at home, I don't know her name, who's the actress, but she's good. The guy just plays Deidre, had this huge monologue. I was thinking about, as an actor, just what the fuck? She was talking, because Bix is saying, Bix was sitting there tied up. And she says this she goes on for like 10 minutes, it seems like. Just goes on this whole thing, walking around. I love the direction. I love all this stuff. Walking around her, looking at her, occasionally getting in her face. Hi, Kirsten. Hi, everybody. It was really intense. And her kind of going over this whole thing about she wants to find Cassian. She wants to know everything. She wants to know about how to steal the equipment. And she has a fish reference about dragon in the sea, make sure they're all fish. You're in my net. Are you a fish or a thief? She's like just this whole thing and wants to know. And then Bix finally says something. She's kind of like, I think you're enjoying this kind of thing. It was like, oh, and Homegirl was not. She was like, she kept saying how much she was tired of being her time wasted and she was getting bored. But Homegirl sure did talk the whole time. But it was just like, it was a very interesting. I just thought, gosh, she had a long monologue. And so, I mean, I saw you guys think about that whole beginning of the torture of her, basically.
I will say for the actress, I love Deidre's expressions though. She just the way she just uses her face just to and the subtle expression she'll shift as she's delivering lines or reacting to people is really fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. And with this one especially, she's trying to get information out of people. So she's showing, to me, I was like, I wrote down, she's scary. Like she really was, I believe how scary she is in some way. Like some of these villains, you're like, I'm not that scared, whatever. With her, she would do just about anything. She's scary, right, John?
Oh, terrifying. Menacing. She's menacing. I feel like the tone, like the demeanor as she's calmly walking around and just like lowly speaking, like not raising her voice at all. She's just very calm in her demeanor, like almost pretending to be a good cop, but like is actually the baddest cop that you could find. Like this whole scene was terrifying. She played it great. The monologue was great. The delivery was awesome. She's a great actress. I bought everything. If I was in that interrogation room, I would have been absolutely terrified. So yeah, it was a great scene.
I feel like, and that's the thing too, is like, it was like, all right, how are they going to interrogate? What's their method? Is it going to be knives? Is it going to be, some kind of like a prototype for the interrogation droid they had in Star Wars? And here, nope, it is just the sounds of the death throes of this race. And yeah, it's just interesting how the Empire was just like, oh, we found 3 dudes, hanging out in the ducks under the bridge. And so like, oh wait, instead of being concerned about them, we thought like, how can we use this to hurt other people?
Hurt other people. Yes.
Yeah. The Empire never wasting a moment.
Yeah. I laugh because like, so basically I say pull out this headset and everything, and it's like, okay, here you go, bitch. And they put it on her. And so she starts screaming because she's hearing their skits. So I guess it's so horrible. It's like, well, if you can't move, just shake your head. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. But like that, it's a very unique way of giving people a talk. Very unique. I think we've seen the other ways before. We saw the other ways they do that before. So something different, right, John? A little different.
When Gorst was like, this interrogation method is not physical, I was like, this is going to be really bad. This is going to be really bad. Like, it's not physical.
Yes.
Yeah, this is going to be horrible.
And so in the end, though, I guess she does spill beans of whatever she knows, and they say keep her alive as a witness. Like they use that word as a witness, not as as a witness, because she's seen things. So very interessante.
Well, because I feel like it was going to happen anyway, because I did like that point that Biggs brings up to her. It's like, you're not going to believe anything I say anyway. And she's like, well, yeah, you're right. So, I could talk now, but you're still going to put me through it. So why don't we just get to you putting me through it, and we'll go from there, and let me be miserable that much sooner.
Yeah, that's true. And then we had a big reveal in the show today. We had Mon Mothma first at the Senate. I love the whole setup of the Senate. I love the way it looks and everything. They just turn off their lights when they're not interested. Everybody's just screaming and hollering, whatever in the background. I love that whole setup. I love that whole sequence whenever they go there. And she's talking, but she gets in her car, the car I love, of course. And they're like, your cousin's here. She's here. My cousin's here at the Senate. She's waiting for you. And first you see the little bitch, her daughter, Lyda, or Lydia, whatever her name is. I don't like the little girl. She gets on my nerves. And I hold up this dress. It's pretty, and blah blah. And I was like, so that's an auntie so-and-so. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that who I think that is sitting there? And it's Vel. So they're cousins.
Yeah.
But
now, did they call her Aunt Vel too? Do you guys remember?
So here's the thing. So in my family, it happens in a lot of families where if like my Aunt Faith really isn't my Aunt Faith. She's my mother's first cousin, but she's older than my mom, so I don't call her cousin. I call her aunt.
Right.
And that happens a lot of times in families with like larger families, or families have where like your cousin is the age of your parents. A lot of times, just aunt. You grow up with them because you're a baby. Grow up as an aunt. So that's what. So when I said that, I thought that's realistic. I guess they're still doing that in the future.
Yeah. And did they call her Vel though in Mon Mothma's house? Like,
no.
What was do you guys remember? I can't remember right now, but the name that they used for her.
Yeah,
now afterwards, like now as we're talking about it, I'm thinking to myself, like, did they call her Vel in Mon Mothma's house? Because then I'd be surprised if she didn't use like a fake name.
Well, she's the whole mission. But she said, just go be a spoiled rich girl for a while.
Yeah.
So she has I guess a regular life, because they were looking for, they've been asking me about you. So make sure you go home and see them first. I want to come see you first and get cleaned up. So it's kind of like they imply those other stuff. I didn't read it. I didn't even care about the name. I didn't write it down. But
Mon Mothma's husband, cool dude though. It's like, and she married yet? I mean,
he's a dick.
Just find a widower at this point. You're a little too old now.
I know, he was such a dick. I was like, oh my God. I was like, he's He's just so. Well, the first line of what her daughter's name is was like, she's like, your father has something to say about that outfit or whatever. And she's like, my father would do whatever I want. And like rolling her eyes, I'm like, I'm gonna snatch that dress out of her hands. No,
Right.
bitch, you can't have it.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then when it was sitting there eating food, and Tay, you mean mom's boyfriend? And the daughter just yelling shit out. She's like, who told you that? Your father or whatever. And parents doesn't say anything, of course. It's like that was a long time ago. We were in grade schoolers, she says. I'm like, that family is something else, Frank. That family is something else.
Never miss an opportunity to disrespect the matriarch of the family.
They don't. They none. But there was a sweet moment where Val and my mother are talking, and I wrote this down because I was just like, she goes, "What have we done?" Again, I think about John talking about, later we see her as a strong, leader, but here she's kind of like still teetering back and forth. And Val says, "We've chosen a side. We're fighting against the dark." It's like we've chosen a side. That's what we've done, because it is closing in on her. They hug. They have a nice big hug actually. And go. So I thought that's very interesting that so they're related. That's right. That's what they're both parting, because we took a vow. She kept saying it. We took a vow. We took a vow. So I thought, yeah, it was I love the cinematography as it pulls back, the way she's framed in the doorway, and I love that palace. That palace is the bomb. I love all those different rooms and everything. And there's Frank. Frank's gone. Yes, we've broken Frank.
This whole thing is very interesting, by the way, too, because I just think of in the last few episodes, right? There was I forget exactly which episode it was, but we saw Mon Mothma go into Luthen's store after the whole Aldani raid, saying like, "Was this you? Was this you?" Meanwhile, Vel was like the captain of that mission, right? And I guess Mon Mothma has no idea that she was even involved in that whole thing. It's just the whole thing is just the dynamics at play here are very interesting to me. We didn't even see Luthen in this episode, but just the fact that you have Mon Mothma like freaking out going into Luthen's store, being like, "Was this you? Was this you?" And then it turns out that Mon Mothma's cousin was like the leader of this operation. She has no idea,
Yes, and we see Tay back again, and that 400,000 credits that she took out may cause some problems. They're tightening up the banks, and she's like, "Well, how can we fix this?" "Well, a deposit would work." She's like, "Oh, that's not gonna happen." And need a loan. And they mentioned a new guy who I guess we haven't seen yet, Davos Scowlin. I guess he'll be on at some point. He's a thug, I guess, with money, wealthy thug, and he wants to meet her. I thought we'd meet him this episode, but it didn't happen. So I guess it'll be the next episode. And it's just interesting because I feel like she feels like she's in over her head. I guess it's getting a little too much. She's getting a little too scared. So I'm waiting for that thing to click also, like where she just goes, fuck it, basically. It's like, okay, I'm ready. Or I'm in. It's like she's still nervous, she's still scared, she's still trying to hold on. It's like really interesting.
Well, I think the challenge for that is that, she knows her husband's not on board. And clearly her daughter is not a huge fan, so she's going to side with dad. So, I got to imagine it's one thing to know that they're not agreeing with you, but to officially say, guys, I got to go because I'm doing this and you don't believe in it and see you later. I got to imagine that's got to be a hard thing to finally say, like, all right, I'm doing it. I'm cutting ties.
It is interesting because I feel like, in a way, because we talked a little bit before too about how Mon Mothma and Cassian have never met, right? But they've never crossed paths, but they're obviously connected in a way through the rebellion, right? But it's interesting too to see Mon Mothma at this point where she's still very timid in a lot of ways, and like she's clearly on the side of the rebellion and against the Empire, but isn't necessarily willing to do certain things yet. And I feel like Cassian is almost in a similar situation where he obviously hates the Empire, has been stealing their stuff. He pulled that one mission with the rebellion on Aldani, but like he's never really seemed like he's really bought into the rebellion to me yet. Like the same way that like Mon Mothma maybe hasn't been willing to go that extra step yet. But we saw some talk in this episode with the ISB crowd about how they know that Marva is the mother and that she's there on Ferrix and she's hanging out. And I'm wondering what's going to be the catalyst for both of them. Mon Mothma finally getting all in and diving into the rebellion, and then Cassian. What's going to happen? Could it be Marva? Something happens to her, and he really dives into the rebellion. It seems like they're both sort of at that breaking point on the edge there. Maybe something happens, and we see them both dive into the rebellion full, head on at the same time. I don't know.
Well, right now, we'll talk about that storyline last. Cassian's in prison. He's busy doing that right now. But
right.
She's still on the outside. Also, they picked up I just make sure we mention this. They picked up a rebel pilot. They picked up one on a random interrogation. They found one. And she, again, at the ISB is connecting the dots, saying there's something going on. Cassian was clean shaven. He was. So they're trying to connect Aldani now to it, and the lead guy's like, "I like the work." And so they're piece. So her and her team are piecing that together also. But the way she's just like, we're trying to figure out ways to fix this. She's like, "Well, why don't we if we kill him, and then just put him in a ship and mess with the ship, just have it like just kind of jump." I'm like, "Girl, so she's talking just like nothing. Like if we just like buy him donuts, I mean, she's like just kill somebody, and it's like she has no shame, none, no. Just talking like no."
I do notice though that the guy that she screwed over to get his territory, he hasn't been showing up to meetings.
No,
but he's up to these days.
He's bitter.
Yeah.
He's totally
I think
bitter.
that was Blevins. I think that was
Blevins. Yes, he's bitter. He has no reason to stop anymore.
But those things are interesting because she was onto something, and this is, the pieces are there for this to be a lot bigger than anybody ever suspected.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So all of that's good. So literally, we've just talked about every storyline not involving Cassian. I was making sure we took care of everything, and that was so far about a half an hour of the show we just talked about right now. So I'm just telling you, that's to me how good this show is. There's so much to talk about that actually what we're seeing is different sides of the rebellion. And I said Luthen wasn't even here. Him and his sister weren't even in this episode. There was no Cinta. So when he said we're watching Marva, that's Cinta who's watching Marva, obviously, because she had that apartment over there. So it's like we know there's so many different parts happening that I'm excited to see kind of how this all comes together. It's going to be some big mini rebellion that brings them all together at some point where they all cross paths, or like we have no idea. We have 2 seasons of this. First of all, we have another season to go with this too. So I was very curious. I mean, we just mentioned every other storyline not with Cassian in it. That to me is very interesting. So I think they just yes.
Don't forget though, next episode is going to be the episode that features Mando and Grogu, and we'll just get a nod from Cassian, just one nod, and that's it. That's next episode, I think.
But see, I actually would take that on this show. Boba Fett, that was a very, thanks folks for making that our show. I hit also on that one too, but that was a very strange show to do. There were times I was just confused when I came there.
It is interesting with 3 episodes left. I mean, I know we got like a little mini time jump last episode. And I don't know if that was supposed to be the only time jump, or because I thought this season would cover seasons 1 and 2, and then it would be 3, 4, and 5 next year.
You're wrong, season. Really. Apparently, you're wrong, Frank. So.
I guess so, because I'm hard pressed to see how you're going to be able to. I mean, I feel like you need these other episodes to kind of wrap up this whole thing.
Right. It's like it's very much. Well, see, I guess we're getting mini time jumps because now we put the Cassian story. That's the other story. This whole thing is Cassian in prison. So what we're seeing is now he has a handle of things. He's casing the joint and he's trying to get out of there. But we still don't know how long he's been. So he's been there for a while, apparently. We don't know how long he's been there, but he's been there for a while. So I guess that's where the time jumps are supposed to happen, kind of like we're watching him be there. I don't know.
I mean, it's been over a month because I thought it was
right. The first 30 days.
Yeah, Andy Serkis's character had like 271, and now he's at like a 241 or something around that.
They said 217.
Yeah, I think you're right, James, because there was a point where Andy Serkis was
217 shifts.
He was in his little cell, and that little screen that shows how many shifts they have left. I'm pretty sure I saw it say 217.
I wrote it down. It's 217 shifts left. So I guess that's over another month. It's over another several months, I guess.
Yeah.
He's been there for a while now.
Which, by the way, how good is this freaking show that more than halfway through the season they can just introduce Andy freaking Serkis. My God.
He's so good. He's so good.
God, so many good actors in this show.
There's a lot of good actors in the show. And
Oh.
what's funny is, so Cassian wants to plan a takeover and escape. And I like this. I like the scene. Here we go. Well, first, before we get to the scene I really liked, there's something going on. Level two. There's something going on. And the whole episode, I was on edge with the old man. The old man was giving me anxiety the whole episode. I was like, first his hand was hurting. They move around. Then he's not, they just I'm like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? I mean, I was completely like on edge about him the whole show. So that was going on. But level 2, something's going on. Kino, what's funny about his character, he just wants to finish his shift and get out. He's one of those. I just want to finish my shift and get out. Oh, sorry. Glenda Fuentes says in the chat, next season will cover years 2 and 3.
Mm.
I don't know how do you know that, Glenda? What do you know?
That's Tony Gilroy's pseudonym.
It says Glenda, Tony, I'm glad you're in the chat. Thank you. Super chat us, please, while you're here. I know you got money. I know you got some dough. But that's go back to the whole thing. Okay, so Kino just wants to do his shifts and get the fuck out. Get out. That's it. He's done. We'll get out. But he's almost refusing. He's, I guess, has blinders on. Like, he doesn't want to see anything else. He just wants to get out. Yeah. But there's stuff happening. And it's level 2. The power goes on and off. Stuff's going on. So you have that. So that stuff's going on. Meanwhile, you find out, and you can see, and this is how great Andy Serkis is, because he has it over his face. He's trying to keep these guys in line because that's his job. He's been led to this job. But when they let him know that Unit 25, they fried all 100 men, his face starts to change. When he talks to the other leader guy, he's still trying to keep everybody, and Cassian's like, you got to keep us so you don't think we know anything. And, but his face, and he's starting to crack a little bit, like there is something going on, but still, I just want to get out. I just want to do my job. I want to get out. But I just love that throughout this episode, we saw his character start to crack. And I also do love when they're in the pods together, and I know they were across from each other. Was that before? I remember them being across from each other.
I don't remember that either.
They were just so weird. They're across from each other. And he says, have you ever talked about you breaking out? And homeboy just dismisses him. So, and then at one point, of course, Cassian is trying to file that pipe or something.
Yeah.
Also in the bathroom.
Yeah. I mean, and Cassian's whole point is like, you can just talk to me right now because they don't care about us. They think nothing of us. They're not listening to our conversations. He is so adamant that it's like, they don't care. Just tell me.
We are cheaper than droids and replaceable. That's what he said.
Yeah. That whole scene too, where they're in that little hallway, right? And you see Andy Serkis with his hands behind his head, just saying to all the men in the room, saying, it's just a rumor. We don't actually know anything. It might not be true. It might be true. I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, he's talking to all these guys to try to calm them down, but he's actually talking to himself.
Yes, I'm saying his face conveyed all of that.
Yeah.
His acting is so good. It conveyed all of that. That's what I'm saying. It's like, he was like, Cassian's right. And this guy, there's something going on. And I loved when Cassian keeps asking, how many guards on each level? How many guards? The whole episode, how many guards each level? So that was kind of good too. But I wrote, I said, Kino is starting to crack. Wrote that down. Then the old man, was it Olaf, Oleg? I'm sorry.
It was Ulaf.
Ulaf.
ULAF. Yeah. I always watch with the captions on, so I see all the
okay. So Ulaf. I should watch for the captions on, see what it looks like.
I'm legally changing my name to that because I thought it was cool.
Gulag. What's your name?
Ulaf. Yeah.
To be honest, I've always thought that you looked like an Ulaf.
Flatterer.
What he meant to say is a goof off. Is what he meant to say. You look like a goof off. That's what he meant to say.
It was interesting though, because they had that one moment where Cassian decides, like, hey, we should swap positions with the old man just so we can be more efficient. And when Andy Serkis comes over to like, hey, what's up? Who made this call? He doesn't take any credit. He passes it on to another guy. And he's like, nope, I don't want any kind of recognition or anything.
That was interesting scene. The thing is, this is like Cassian has been there for a while. He's been surveying the land, surveying the different customs or whatever. But they're all trying to support the old man also, trying to keep it going. It was like a very team effort. I love that. But he basically, when I saw it, I was like, I think he's having a stroke. That's what actually my nursing experience was like. He's having a stroke. So he completely, obviously, when they're in line, fell out. I mean, that was it. He fell out, and that scene was very interesting. Then the meditech come and everything, and it was like, I can't help him. I'll put him out, and when he said, in a week or so, you'll be begging for this. We're like, oh, what? Like, what? Yeah. What? What's going on? And so he basically euthanizes him. I can't even say his name, Olav, whatever his name is. But it was like, but that time, see, Kino asked, what? Like, he started to ask the guy, what did you say? Because they're like, the guy's like, do you need these two guys here? They'll be coming soon or whatever. And the guy tells him, this guy gets released from 4. They accidentally put him on 2, and he got out on the floor and got out, and he killed all 100 men to cover it up. And Kino goes, but he was released. And that's where Cassian goes, oh, we're not getting out. Never. We're not ever getting out, ever. And it finally hits Kino that no one's getting. I thought, ooh, that's interesting. What an interesting twist. So that's the twist. So no one's getting out. So they're not really releasing people. They're just putting them on different floors.
Right.
So that you won't even know. Like, oh, look at that. That was very interesting. And then very end, of course, he says, how many guards are each level? And he says 11 more than 12. That's how it ended.
Yeah.
But I thought that whole twist kind of ending, I was like, ooh, so you're just there for the rest of your life? You're just there till you die, basically. I mean, it just keeps you rotating. That was very interesting, you guys. I did not see that coming.
I didn't see it either, and I guess it makes sense because, I mean, really, does the Empire care about rehabilitation,
right?
Or paying your debt to society?
Right.
No, they just want cheap labor that they can just use until they're dead, and then just replace it with more.
Yeah,
so,
it makes sense. What he said, we're just basically we're less expensive than droids.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's an interesting statement too. Think about it. That's an interesting statement also. There's cheap labor. They're just cattle.
I didn't necessarily see this twist coming, right? But I did think at some point maybe Kino and Cassian would build some sort of relationship where maybe once they got out, they would like reconnect or whatever and see each other again. But I really like that this twist has sort of been thrown in, because I feel like now we're gonna get some like big prison break.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, because that's the thing too. You can't halfway through a season bring Andy Serkis in, then he just like kind of finishes out his sentence and he gets out, and then Cassian calls him, a year later. like that can't be it. Like something big is going to go down with these guys in this prison, and it looks like the plans for that are already in the works. So,
yes, I agree. Frank.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting because, they seem to have like a kind of a sense about somewhat of a general schematic of their prison cell and their work area. This episode, they really kind of dissect the ladder or the elevators or the thing that aren't electrified. But I mean, we have no idea like how they even plan, because they're all in the middle of an ocean.
Right.
And what's the transport like off of that? I don't know if there are any, there must be some for the workers, I guess, or do the workers stay there and they get cycled out? So I feel like there's all these other pieces that they still need to figure out all the details for, that I'll be really curious to see how they're able to pull this escape off.
Yeah. You know what I wish we could see more of, by the way, too? Cassian obviously has a way with people, right? He seems to be able to get, very close to women very easily. Even in this prison, we saw in this episode he's been in there for a little while, but I don't think it's been that long that he's been in there. And it seems like he's already won over these guys, like the guys that are in that, tunnel that communicate with each other through the glass and stuff. Like, I feel like you've got to have a lot of trust in somebody to sort of like bring them into the fold there. But I feel like we never actually see Cassian. I feel like he has to be a pretty smooth guy, right? And I feel like we never actually see that. Even in Rogue One, like the first scene that we're in, he meets that spy, that contact of his. He ends up killing him, because they got into some trouble with some stormtroopers. And then even in Andor and this, like he couldn't smooth talk his way out of the shore trooper, who put him into this prison. And it's like, okay, Cassian's obviously a very smooth guy because he makes lots of connections with lots of people, but we never actually see that. I would love to see how he got close with those guys because he was never even working on their same team at the table where they're doing all the work. Like, how does he actually make these connections? We've never seen like a very smooth moment where he's a smooth talker and like works his way into a good situation or out of a bad situation. It's like, I want to see Cassian like turn on that charm and like talk his way out of something or into something or whatever.
Maybe it hasn't happened yet. Maybe he's developing it.
I guess
pre-Rogue One.
True, but I agree with what John was saying because I thought it was interesting that in one sense it's like, oh wow, he's made inroads, which is cool. We don't have to see like I didn't want to see those scenes of like, who are you? Get away from us. What are you trying to prove? No, we already see him a month later. He's made these inroads with these people, but I agree. It's like, well, I thought that was cool to see. I did think that same thing too. It's like, well, yeah, he was able to, how did he do this? Because otherwise we just see him. He was really, kept to himself when he was on the planet doing the heist. Didn't really want to share many details. He's really pretty much like a selfish dude about himself. So, I mean, certainly there is some selfishness because he wants to get out, but you can't pull off a jailbreak by yourself. So you need to make those connections with people. And how do you, get on board, get all these people working together? Because he's going to need a lot of people to move towards a common task of getting them the hell out of this prison.
Yeah,
I just think that he's, again, I just kind of disagree with you guys. I just feel like we're learning pre-Rogue One. So we're finding out how he's getting to where he is, and maybe the charm comes later. Maybe it comes later in the season or season 2. I feel like it's just we're getting he's not where we see him in Rogue One yet. I think this person will be first. Will be the first thing we'll see him, kind of.
I mean, he might have like maybe there's like a book on tape in his cell that he's been listening to.
A cassette, audio cassettes. Yeah, audio cassettes.
Yeah, some kind of like affirmational tape. How to, win friends and influence people in the empire.
Who moved my cheese? Who moved my cheese?
Here's another thing. I really want to know. Why did Luthen want to meet Cassian so bad? Remember in the beginning of the season, that was one of the things that Andor kept saying to Bix. He was like, no, call your contact. You said he wanted to meet me. It's like, why does everybody want to meet Andor? Like, why? For what reason? What has he done?
Well, why not?
You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't think about that. All I know is we got 3 episodes left. I'm going, okay, how are we going to get to season 2? We know it's a season 2 coming. So like you said in the chat, they think it's going to be this. Well, probably all of this, and then season 2 will do the jump, and we'll be like and go. I guess get us to Rogue One somehow. I guess.
Yeah, because I feel like Luthen, it was more of a. It seems if he wants to go get Cassian, it must be a skills-based thing and not a charisma, personality type thing. Because it's like I do wonder why he's like all gung ho about Cassian, because we're not really seeing it yet to us.
Well, because it seems like Luthen broke all the rules too. Like even if they're his own rules, but he even said to his assistant in that one episode, like I wasn't careful. So he took a lot of risks, broke a lot of rules, was not careful just to meet Cassian. Was probably close to being captured or killed by these guards. They just made it out. I just think it's interesting to me that someone like Luthen, who has this secret identity and alias, would go through all that and make these risks for somebody like Andor, who he's never met before. I don't know.
Glenda says to you, John, in the chat, at John, Bix told him Cassian stole the Empire flight unit that he was wanting to sell. So my guess is Luthen was interested in his skills.
It's true. And that's a fair point. but it still makes me wonder, why wouldn't why wouldn't he still be more careful? It's like, it seemed like he was like desperate to meet Cassian. I find it hard to believe that he would be so desperate just because he stole one piece of equipment or whatever. It's like, you're willing to break all the rules and throw, caution to the wind to meet this guy Cassian that you've never met before. I just feel, and then, like I said, all these like women that Cassian seems to meet, he gets into prison, he's already buddy with the guys that communicate through the prison system. I just feel like, why are all these people so willing to like just make Cassian their best friend or do it? I just feel like we haven't really seen that yet. Like, what is it about Cassian that just draws people to him in this way, to take so many risks and this and that? I feel like we haven't seen enough of that.
No, Glenda disagrees with you and says, this is Glenda telling you, John, he was slipping, that's why. Like Clea mentioned last episode. She says, I agree, huge risk. Now they want Cassian dead, LOL. But she claims it's because he's slipping.
I don't know if I buy that. Luthen is slipping?
Glenda, he doesn't buy it. So there you go, kids.
Well, I don't know if we've seen enough to. I think this was the rebellion in a very tenuous situation. Luthen thinking that Cassian can help and being desperate to try to get him into the fold. I don't necessarily know. Think that we've seen Luthen slipping at this point.
No, true. Because I mean, it felt like it was a rush. I mean, they were on the clock. They only had a limited amount of window to pull off that heist, since they needed to wait for that celestial event. That was like the only time they could pull it off. Otherwise, they'd have to wait for like another year, which would put everything behind. So, I could see.
Yeah. They're clearly desperate for money. Mon Mothma is trying to find all sorts of backdoor ways to get money to fund this rebellion.
Yeah,
Luthen, the biggest reason that Luthen wanted to pull off this Aldhani heist was because they need money. It's desperate times call for desperate measures. I don't know if you could say that somebody's slipping because they're doing certain things. I think they're acting out of desperation. I'm just wondering why you're so desperate for Andor, because I don't know if they've really established, great, in a great way, why so many people should be falling on the sword for Andor at this point.
Diane Capps is using a phrase that we use in our Bold and Beautiful show all the time. Everyone falls into Andor's vortex. We always call it the vortex when someone's really good looking or whatever, and you start falling into it. Like, why do they always fall for that person? Because you're in the vortex. When you get in the vortex, all reason goes out the window. So Diane's saying that everybody falls into this. They meet Cassian, and that's it. They fall into his vortex.
I mean, I know what that's like. James, I've been under your spell for the past 7 years.
You have. He tries to leave. He tries to leave, but he comes back. And John, right. You're under my spell too. So under my vortex.
There you go.
So that on you.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So it's a vortex. I mean, like you said again. The Cassian character has not been as developed as the others, I think, which I don't mind. I'm okay with so far. But I feel like the other characters are very important also to the story, which is one of the first times I feel that way of a Star Wars show. But I feel like they're all going to inform how Cassian's going to act. I feel like everybody's actions are going to actually play into whatever Cassian does next. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah,
I know. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just like the other characters. I'm glad they're actually fleshing them out. He still needs some work to be fleshed out, but I think we'll get somewhere. I think this prison break's gonna be a major thing.
Yeah,
I mean, to see somebody like much like that heist.
Yeah,
I really can't imagine any sort of huge jailbreak from the Empire has happened yet. So for that to occur would be another message that it's like, hey, people are willing to fight and succeed against the Empire, which could only help it draw more people to want to fight as well.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
No.
About this prison break?
Yes, you may.
No. So Kino, Andy Serkis, do you think
he dies?
I was going to say, do you think he dies, or do you think he shows up on season 2 in any capacity? Or
he dies.
So he's
because it's towards the end of his sentence. He's going to be disillusioned.
I could see he's been talking about how he just wants to finish his shifts. He's almost done with his sentence. He's getting out. I could see him in this prison break making a sacrifice.
Yes, exactly.
To die to get the other people out,
exactly.
even though he was the closest to being
exactly.
Freed.
That's I'm like
freed.
I'm calling it. I'm calling it timestamping it. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
He'll have a huge heroic sacrifice. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be sad. It's gonna be Emmy worthy. It's gonna be all this stuff. That's because again, it's the Andy Serkis.
Yeah,
it has to be. I think so. Frank's like, maybe.
Maybe. It's any chance for Andy Serkis just to act as himself is cool to see. So
yeah,
I'm enjoying him for however long we'll get him.
By the way, is Andy Serkis the only actor to be involved in the now Star Wars universe, Marvel universe, and Lord of the Rings?
Oh,
is he the only actor?
Yeah. I mean, I guess. Yeah. I mean, unless we get Kate Blanchett in Star Wars somehow.
That's funny.
That I feel like that's our best option. Or Hugo Weaving in Star Wars.
He's a great actor. Hugo Weaving's a great actor.
Yeah.
I can see him on the show.
So
he's a great
the two of them are just licking their chops, waiting to get that hat trick.
I love me some Kate Blanchett, so I love her. So she can't do no wrong for me. I everything she's in, I'm a huge fan of her work. If you guys have not, just side note, if you've not seen Blue Jasmine, one of the best films I've ever seen about a person who loses their mind, and she won an Oscar for it. It was completely deserved. It showed how a person could go from normal to insane, and it was so realistic. And she did such a great job. I was I know it's Woody Allen, whatever, but it was such a well done film. But Blue Jasmine is my favorites. It's just she deserved that Oscar easily deserved it. So, and The Aviator, she's good in that. She's good in a lot of stuff, of course. She's good in. But I would like to see her in the Star Wars. I'm not saying the Star Wars. Why not? Because I know they kept mentioning how Andy Serkis is now two different characters in the Star Wars universe, but Warwick Davis, I think, still beats it. I think he's in three different characters, I think, or something. I think he beats it for the most. I think it's Warwick Davis, I think. Yeah, I think so. So anyway, that's that. Kino's dead body will be dragged and turned into Snoke. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's the chat data, yes. Exactly. I saw something for Halloween. They were like, he's actually Snoke, or something like somebody was posting that somewhere. That would be funny too, kind of, when they play opposite each other.
What if Olaf turns out to be Snoke?
Right, exactly.
Somehow.
What?
Yeah, what? Exactly. But anyway, folks, that's your show. We did it. We'll be here again next week. We have 3 more shows, you guys. It ends the night before Thanksgiving, so join us the next 3 Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 Pacific Eastern. Thank you, everyone in the chat room, for your thoughts and coming in. Thank you for coming in here. And all those who are listening to us afterwards, do you have anything to say to the fans or listen to making the show number 1, you guys? What do you want to say to them? Frank, John?
I'll just say, folks, thanks for your continued listening and watching, and get excited for the next 3 weeks as the 3 of us will slowly each week put more and more pieces of our turkey costumes on to be full turkeys by our last episode.
Oh man!
Oh my God, Johnny, words to the listeners who are listening to this.
No, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like Frank said, I love talking about Star Wars, especially with these 2 guys right here, two of the best guys I know, and I love doing this. So the fact that people are watching or listening or consuming our content in any way at all is really an honor. I love talking about Star Wars. So
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Frank, so you want to say?
I would just say, everybody, for those that are just only listening, please take the time to watch, because as handsome as John's voice sounds, it's even better when you can see the words coming out of his mouth.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And if we get a whole bunch of new viewership on this, I'll be it's because Frank endorsed you.
That's right.
He did. Endorsed you. Suddenly, Bob's like,
no, just gonna say one last reminder. Just make sure you take care of your private box.
The private box. Yes. That's how we'll end the show. We'll see you next time.